And welcome back, guys, to another episode of Katawa Shoujo. In the last part, we finished off the year-end student council duties, and we said goodbye to Shizune and Misha. And now we've finished up all of Lily's packing, and we are at the school gate. Let's get started. The numerous lamps scattered around the Yamaku grounds failed to do much more than provide pinpoints of light in an otherwise dense darkness. A car parked on the road just outside the school grounds come into view, its shining black exterior reflecting the dimly lit lamps of Yamaku. I call out to Akira in an effort to alleviate a bit of the heavy atmosphere. That your car? What kind is it?
Don't know much about cars, do you? It's a Lancer Evo Solid and Speedy.
Well, it's not as if her comment on my knowledge is off the mark. I've never really taken an interest in them. She gives a small sigh.
She's been good, but you have to part with it tomorrow, just like the summer house. You guys were the last to visit it before it changed hands.
Turning back from my rather faulty attempt at small talk, I glanced at Hanako and Lilly following behind us. By rights, Hanako should be leading Lilly, but it's rather definitely the other way around as she clings tightly to Lily's arm. It's a depressing sight.
So, I guess this is it.
Indeed. Although the time for everyone to say their farewells is now, nobody really wants to take the first step. It's as if the longer nobody speaks, the better the chances of them simply not leaving. Lily, do you really have to go? I'm sorry, Hanako. I won't be leaving you forever, though. I can still call you. Hisao will still be here as well. I nod, but Hanako just clutches all the tighter to Lily's arm. After spending so long without anyone to call family, it must be excruciating to have to say goodbye to the one person that was as close to a mother as anyone could have been in her life. Lily lets out a long, sad breath. All Akira and I can really do is stand by quietly on the sidelines, since the only person that can solve this would be Lily herself. Eventually, Lily pulls her arm from Hanako's grip and holds both of her shoulders gently, a much more decisive way of addressing than I've ever seen Lily take with her. Hanako, remember when we first met? When you entered my room for the first time after overhearing my consoling of a friend, you didn't say a single word for the entire night. Even as I poured you tea and talked, you sat silently and simply listened to what I said. It took many quiet meetings like that before you began to open up to me, but as you began to, I felt some of the happiest moments I've ever felt. I didn't become your friend because I pitied you, Hanako. I became your friend because I knew you were hiding not just from me, but from everyone. Your ambitions, personality, interests, tastes, I didn't know any of them, and neither did anybody else. As you showed yourself to me, though, I began to realize the person that you were, and became sure that our meeting was a very special moment. But Lily cuts her words short as she brings her hand to Hanako's head and brushes her bangs to the side, gently pressing her lips on Hanako's forehead. As she pulls her head back, leaving Hanako all but speechless and her eyes moist, Lily beams a wide smile. I believe you are a very beautiful person, Hanako, and I am certain that you will become a strong and confident woman. You are a very dear friend, and someone whom I love very much. Just like Hisao, I will never forget you as long as I live. I may be leaving, but you have your own life here to lead, just as I do. You have your own friends and hobbies, and your own hopes after graduating. I want you to devote yourself to them, even after I'm not around anymore. That is why I think that you will be okay, because you are your own self, with your own life. You yourself proved that to me. Hanako lowers her head in embarrassment, but nods as she does so. I understand. I know I have to say goodbye. I know you have to go your own way. But thank you, Lily, for everything. Thank you, Hanako. Will you be okay? There are a few seconds of silence before the answer comes. I will. Lily smiles, undoubtedly at least partly in relief. That makes me very happy then. Goodbye. Goodbye, Lily. And farewell to you as well, Hisao. Goodbye. I'll miss you. She pauses for a moment before walking to me. Her right hand, outstretched in front of her, takes a hold of my shoulder. Her left hand slowly, daintily reaches towards my face, taking my cheek in her palm. For a while, she simply holds my face, her fingers just lightly moving to take in its contours. Usually her hand would be warm when doing such a thing, but the night air has given her skin a cool edge. I'm not sure how long we stayed like this. Her clouded eyes pointed just below my own as she wears a wistful, almost distant smile. Eventually, though, I take her cold hand in mine. It's difficult to do so, but with a slight sigh, I gently remove her hand from my cheek. I hope you have a long and happy life, Lily, no matter where you might go. Thank you. I'll make sure of it. She takes a long, trembling breath before turning slightly towards Akira's direction. Akira? Okay. With a nod, she takes Lily's hand and begins to guide her to the car parked outside the gates. They both walk slowly and deliberately, as their movements have been rehearsed in advance. It's strange to feel like this now, watching somebody leave Yamaku. The feeling of unease I have now reminds me of the first time I walked through those black wrought iron gates that always looked far too pompous for what they were. As they leave, all of us know full well that our lives are irreversibly changing. I'd always told myself that I just have to take life as it comes, but everything's changing so fast, so suddenly. In the end, Lily's an irreplaceable part of the lives of both Hanako and me. The noise of Akira's opening the passenger door for Lily brings me out of my thoughts, her hand waving back as Lily gets in. See you guys. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, Hanako. Goodbye, Hisao. Hanako's hand quickly shoots up, her face brightened by her enthusiastic farewell. Goodbye, Lily. Goodbye. See you, Akira. And goodbye, Lily. The door shuts as we all put on our best happy farewell faces, Akira getting in the car herself and starting up in a short measure. Lily's hand can just be seen waving through the tinted windows, both of our hands waving high as well. Just as every other time I've done such things, I can't quite work out precisely why I, or Hanako, are wave to her, given that she'd never see us doing so, but it doesn't matter. Even after that black, shiny car goes down the hill and disappears into the dark night, we carry on waving and seeing Akira and Lily off. And then, they're gone. A strange stillness takes over as our hands return to our sides. I don't quite know what I should do or how I should feel. In the end, we just stand there, silently staring down at where the car disappeared from sight. Goodbye, Lily. All I can do in response to her quiet, mournful goodbye is to place my hand on her shoulder. She looks at me for a few moments before looking back down the hill, secure in the knowledge that I'm still around for her. What we'll do from now on doesn't seem all that certain. We all have our own ambitions now, just as Lily said. But even so, it feels like there's a certain missing part in both of our lives now, something that can never be replaced. God, they made that seem like an ending, but there's got to be more, right? He's got to get up and he's got to go to that airport and he's got to tell that girl how he feels. Get her to understand that, you know, she's letting someone else control her life. She may have made the decision to go, but in the inevitability of it all is she was controlled into doing this choice. She was guilted into this choice. The snap of my mobile phone's closing contrasts with the ambient chatter and noise audible even in the hallway outside the library. It's the first day of summer holidays, a time that has perpetually seemed so far away, and yet it's now not only here, but also made painfully obvious by the students, or lack thereof, left in the school. Most students have returned home to spend the holidays with relatives by now. The few that are left are mostly chatting between themselves, usually about what they intend to do in the coming weeks. It makes me feel like the odd one out for taking advantage of the school library being open for the first several days of the holiday. Ostensibly, it feels it's for students to drop off any books they've borrowed and have yet to return, and for those who will have their parents pick them up to help pass the time until they get whisked away. Thanks to the recent lengthy phone call from my parents, which had so rudely woken me from my sleeping on a beanbag at the back of the library, I am now in the latter category. Sliding my phone back into my pocket, this time remembering to set it to silent, I go back into the quiet and wholly placid room. It's a nostalgic sight, just as when Lilly first led me to the library. The orange tint of the sunset bathes the room in its light, while Hanako sits on a beanbag, slightly reading, and Yuko's fussing. It was barely visible behind the counter. Hanako especially has been noticeably more quiet than usual since yesterday's happenings, but I can't really blame her. It wasn't just me that depended upon that person, after all. I quickly walked back to the beanbag near her, where I had sat before, being doubly careful not to make any unnecessary noise. The soft puff it gives as the bag takes my weight makes Hanako's eyes flick towards me, but only for a second. I get the feeling that Hanako's been quiet only partially out of sadness following Lily's departure. Rather, she seems more thoughtful and measured than I expected, perhaps due to her desire of working out how to deal with Lily's leaving rather than just being depressed over it. It makes me a little proud of her. Hey, Hanako? Yeah? Still going ahead with your idea of traveling? She gives a determined nod. I'll be starting in a day or two. Naomi's decided to come with me, too. Wow, quick start. Where are you two headed to first? I think we're going to start by going north, then looping down and going southward. So, Hokkaido's going to be first. She gives another nod, more tentative than the last. The significance of that place is not lost on either of us. Do you know how you're going to handle the traveling expenses and accommodations? Yeah, I've worked everything out. I think it should be okay. Naomi says that she has her side worked out too. You know, if you need anything, you can just call, right? I gave you my number before. Any time of the day is fine. Oh God. I think her eye is sort of out of place. I think it needs to be farther down on her head, but she's got a cute little smile there. She's just a precious cinnamon bun that just needs a good pat on her head. She gives a smile, which in itself feels like a small personal victory. I know. Thanks, Hisao. It's, you know what? I don't think it's her eye placements that's the problem. It's the fact that her nose is non-existent. Like, you don't even see her nose. I think that's why it looks a little odd. Like, the eye needs to be moved down a little bit. Maybe Lily was right. Although I may offer Hanako any help I can possibly give, I feel as if I know she doesn't need it. She really has grown. Hanako's plan for her holidays are in sharp contrast to my simple following of my parents' suggestion to stay with them. Holidays had always made me feel less excited than most, though, so maybe this is just a return to the status quo. Before my heart attack, I'd always lived so aimlessly that holidays weren't all that much different from my everyday life anyway. After school, I'd wander around a bit in the city, often hanging out with some friends, before making my way home to eat dinner with usually Only one of my parents, but rarely both. Their work schedules didn't leave much time for them to be home, and going there straight from school would just have meant I'd end up feeling bored. I was always an urbanite, though, through and through. Since coming to Yamaku, though, it feels like I've fundamentally changed as a person. The phone call with my parents erased any trace of doubt I might have held on that, in any case. Well, before I could I'd have had exercised a fair normal level of independence for a teenager, that being not a whole lot. My parents were more than pleased to hear that my newfound ability in taking care of myself. Laundry, cooking for myself, cleaning, all in addition to other general chores that come from living without parents around. Just little menial things I've had to pick up, but with relative ease. When I think about it, I've always depended on them, even if they hadn't been at home all the time. To say I never depended on anyone after moving to Yamaku dormitories would be far from the truth, though.
Excuse me.
The two of us look up at the awkwardly fidgeting figure in front of us. Some things never change.
It's getting close to closing time, so...
Oh, right. I'd forgotten that the library closes earlier during the holidays. Hanako and I both get up and dust ourselves off, placing our books back on the shelf behind us. The fact that our taste in reading material has a fair amount of overlap is useful at times. With a bow to Yuko to apologize for taking so much time, Hanako takes her leave of us.
See you tomorrow, Hisao.
Bye. And with that, she walks out of the large, wooden, aging door that heralds the entrance to the library.
She's a quiet person, isn't she?
I suppose I shouldn't be surprised at the staff member sharing personal opinions like this, but after knowing Yuko for a while, it's largely expected. Our relationship is more personal, rather than one with her acting as an authority figure. Yeah, I think that's just how she is. She's got a lot more confidence in herself these days, though.
I don't know her as well as you do, but I think I agree. It's nice to see her talking to people here. She never used to do that before.
Hey, Yuko. You know about Lily's leaving, right?
She told me herself a few days ago. It must be hard leaving everyone behind like she is.
She quickly looks back to me after she says this, probably remembering that I went to her for advice on the relationship between Lily and me before.
Are you going to be okay?
That's a difficult question. It's something I'd rather not think about for now, though, given more pressing issues. Something seems kind of off about this whole deal, don't you think? Yuko appears to think for a while, absent-mindedly scrunching her face up in a variety of creative ways as she does so.
I don't think I really know her well enough to make that kind of judgment. I'm sorry, I can't be more help.
Nah, that's fine. It's just sort of thinking aloud. I give a deep sigh and scratch my head in frustration. There's just so much stuff happening at once that I have no control over. It feels like I'm being swamped.
I think everyone goes through times like that. What's important is to concentrate on what you can do rather than what you can't do. At least that's how I see it. If I didn't think like that, I don't think I'd be able to manage my life as it is.
She says it with a smile and a light tone, but her words are far more than any kind of joke. Being pulled between two jobs as she is, just to hopefully make enough money not only to live but also for university, must be exhausting. Perhaps that's why, coming from her, this feels like it has more meaning than if it had come from most others. I guess you've got a point there. Thank you for the advice once again, Yuko. She bows deeply and smiles again before making her way back to the counter where she spends so much of her time. The tiny wings of the cardboard crane in my hands are only just visible in the dim light of my room, just a little of the moonlight being able to peek through the curtains and around their edges. I lie still in my dark bed for a long time, idly looking up at the little origami bird. It feels like a lot's happened since Lily folded this, but at the same time, it feels like very little has changed. Compared to everyone else, I'm back to square one. I might have a newfound idea of where I want to go with my life, but that's hardly something that affects me now. Hanako's changed. I know that much. If anything, she just makes me feel like I've got no excuse to be like this, considering her previous situation. Lily, though. I turned the bird in my fingers another way, looking at it from yet another angle. When I first met her, she seemed aloof, and perhaps somewhat distant. Her actions were always careful, measured, and precise, and her carefully maintained composure always gave the appearance of unearning confidence and serenity. In time, she became less formal, just a bit, but enough. It felt good to see her lowering her inhibitions around me, and opening up, even just a little, of her own accord. It felt as if I was seeing her real self slowly becoming more vibrant and visible. Now, though, I'm beginning to have doubts. Perhaps they're to be expected after what is, effectively, the two of us breaking up. They don't feel new or strange, though, but rather like an old book being found and dusted off. I soon realized, after meeting Lily, that she saw me as she did Hanako, as someone who needed help and care. At first, I simply thought that we'd be fine as friends, helping each other through our limited time together in school. But then I began to treasure our moments together more and more. From our quiet walks to our talking over lunch, the good sides of her personality became ever more obvious and ever more likable. The absence caused by Lily's trip to Scotland to visit her long-distance family and sick aunt only made me realize how much I liked just being around her, and I had thought that she felt a similar way. For her, though, maybe that wasn't everything to our relationship. Even after she returned to Japan, that she just meant she lost her own family once again after meeting them for such a brief time. She lived so much of her life without her family around, not to mention with Akira working long hours, that she had little choice but to be like that. I had thought her sense of independence to be a good and an admirable trait. It was in stark difference to my reliance on my parents before my heart attack, as reluctant as I may have been to admit it. However, it always meant that she never let people get too close to her. She lost her family likely due to her blindness, went to a different school from anybody she knew because of it, and worked all the harder to make sure she didn't end up a burden on her sister and those around her. And now Akira's going to Inverness, just like the family she thought she'd lost. She never told me of her plans, as conflicted as she was about them. Lily didn't want to be a burden on anyone, including me. I'm an idiot. I never questioned it. I never tried to be there or ask when she needed me to. I just set my life up and expected it to stay that way forever, with the two of us having a nice long relationship where we pushed forward towards our future together. A small pit of frustration and anger at myself wells in my chest. I just let everything happen, never even trying to help Lily. Just her being there was enough. I thought I could keep going on if that were true. But that could never have been enough. It was a childlike dependence on somebody, without any attempt to understand or help their situation. Thanks to that, I lost Lily. I lost the one person I loved most because I wasn't there for her when she needed me. With an increasingly angry feeling washing over me, I turn over and set the crane back on the decks next to my clock, the place where it has lived since that day when she folded it for me. Now, I want you to look at that clock, and I want you to see that number, Hisao. And that number is she hasn't left yet. You better start gunning for the airport, dude. Because you need to let her know. You need to let her know. And we'll let her know, hopefully, next time. So take care, guys. And stay frosty.